I'm a Zionist. Hey, nobody threw anything at me. That's good. Okay. Different congregation. I'm a Zionist. I love Israel. I love the food. I love the land, the knowledge that every street corner, every stone has a story, and it's my story. I love the people. I love the language, the way modern Hebrew words intermingle with the most ancient and holy tongue. I love that Israel means never again, that what happened to my grandparents, my grandfather in Poland, my family in Prussia, the Jews of Europe and the Jews of the Middle East can never happen again. I love that there is a place where I feel at home, even though I've never owned property there. Okay, maybe like a tree or two, but. And my Judaism is not only about Israel. It's also about the demand to live a life of holiness wherever I am, to do mitzvot, to lift up the sparks of God's presence, to pursue justice, to heal brokenness, to look at you and see the image of God, to look at the immigrant and see the image of God, and even, and this is the hardest, to look at the one who says my Zionism makes me a baby killer and see the image of God. So this past year has been hard. The past 2 years have been hard. October 7th, the war, rising anti-Semitism. Just this morning, a stabbing at a synagogue in Manchester. The exhaustion, the fear, the grief sometimes is overwhelming. It's too much. And I find myself turning away, turning off, and building walls. And so today, I want to speak honestly and say that I am scared, not only of what is happening to the Jewish community, the external threats, but I'm also scared of what is happening within the Jewish community, internal threats. So here's where my fear comes in. After 2 years of war, after defending Israel against so many false accusations and lies, after being tired and angry, after feeling abandoned and betrayed, after ignorant comments, our kids being terrified on their college campuses, strangers picking fights with a congregant wearing a kippah when he was walking out of Anne Frank's house, others being welcomed to their vacation spots by anti-Semitic graffiti, Israeli flags being banned at protests while others wave Palestinian flags and wear keffiyehs. After 2 years of that, I'm not only scared of that external threat, but I am scared of who we're becoming as a Jewish community. I see so many shrinking back, not wanting to engage, taking off markers of their faith. I see so many throwing hateful words back, answering hate with hate. And we are so busy defending ourselves, seeing our own pain, that sometimes we fail and sometimes we deny the pain of others. And I will admit, I see it in others because I'm doing it myself, failing to engage or engaging in unproductive ways, not caring that there's hunger in Gaza when our hostages are being starved, deprived of sunlight, and asked to dig their own graves. But it's not only about Israel. I'm exhausted with the hypocrisy of our political parties, that when our party does something, it's to protect our freedoms, but when the other party does the same thing, it's fascism. And I'm terrified about what's happening, and I feel overwhelmed, and I feel beat down. I know my heart just wants to turn off. that my heart sometimes feels like it only has room for our own people, with not enough room for the immigrant, other minorities, the trans community, which is under attack. I don't have room for my allies. Forget about having compassion for those who would rather see me silenced or dead. And so that's why I'm afraid. I fear that we as a society, and in particular we as a Jewish community, are in danger of hardening our hearts, shielding ourselves so much we can only feel our own pain without any compassion left for others. That we are so busy defending ourselves that we lose ourselves. But this is not a new problem. The Torah names it. In Deuteronomy 10, it says, "Cut away the thickening around your hearts and stiffen your necks no more." Or, as another translation puts it, "Circumcise your hearts, enough with this stubbornness." Rashi and Ibn Ezra explain this is a call to cut away the barrier, the cover, whatever it is that blocks your heart from feeling. We think that this thick skin is protecting us, but in reality, it distances us from others' humanity. When we lessen others' humanity, we diminish our own. Only when we open our hearts, when we take the risk, can we truly love. And do we need love right now? We need it more than anything. We need it because we're lonely. We need it because we're scared. We need it because of the increase in political violence. And we need it because, as Martin Luther King put it so eloquently, darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. The rabbis of the Talmud tell this story in Sanhedrin, page 104. There is an incident involving one woman, the neighbor of Rabban Gamliel, whose son died, and she would cry over his death at night. Rabban Gamliel heard her voice and cried with her until his eyelashes fell out. There is no heartbreak greater than the loss of a child. This mother, she can't stop crying. Night after night, her broken heart speaks through her tears. Her soul cries out. And the head of the high court, this amazing teacher, hears her through the walls, and he cries with her. All night, they cry together. Her heart is broken, but she is not alone. You would think that this is where the Talmud leaves it, this beautiful, compassionate story of empathy, but it doesn't. It continues. The next day, his students noticed that he had been crying, and they removed the woman from his neighborhood so that Rabban Gamliel could sleep. These students see their teacher, their rabbi, in pain and say, "This woman's pain is too disruptive. Better not to hear her cries. She must be removed." It might have been a story of compassion, but instead it's a story of moral failure. Sometimes the students suggest it's just too painful to engage in someone else's grief. Better to block it out. Better to turn the channel. Better to deny it, to ignore it, to respond to someone's personal pain by saying, "Oh, but what about?" When we deny the pain of others or say that it's not our problem, are we not in danger of turning into the very thing we're fighting against? To those who have said that our pain doesn't count, who have not heard our stories, who have not only failed to show compassion, but who have shown indifference or hate? On Rosh Hashanah, we read two stories of family dysfunction. On the holiest day of the year, when the rabbis could have selected any reading, they chose these. The first, the banishment of Hagar and Ishmael. Sarah wants them out of the house. She wants to protect her son Isaac. Abraham goes to God, and God says, listen to your wife. And so Abraham has to send away his firstborn son. He is devastated, heartbroken. And the next day, we read of God asking Abraham to sacrifice Isaac. And we, the listeners, can't understand why Abraham does nothing. He doesn't fight. This man who argued with God, bargaining and fighting to save the lives of the corrupt people of Sodom and Gomorrah, says nothing when God asks him to kill his son, his last remaining child. Rabbi Sharon Brous notes that the two stories are connected. When God asked Abraham to sever his relationship with Ishmael, Abraham built a fortress around his heart. He was so hurt that he could no longer love fully and freely, not even Isaac, the son he had wanted for so long. When we cut ourselves off from feeling, we don't allow for compassion and heartbreak. Our hearts, they turn to stone. We do not hold more compassion for our own. We just hold less love overall. But love is not a scarce resource. We do not have less of it the more we give away. In fact, it's the opposite. The more we give away, the more we have. You guys remember that song, right? Love is something, if you give it away, you end up having more. I just want to try and wake people up. And the opposite is true. The less we give away, the less we have. The heart is a muscle. It needs to be exercised or it atrophies. Leora Ayalon, one of the authors of Dear Shuni, who's an educator, sociologist, and writer, and a bereaved mother from Kfar Aza, her son having been murdered while in his safe room on October 7th, she offers a different reading to the story of the grieving mother and her neighbor, Rabban Gamliel. She says, but Rabban Gamliel was fulfilling what was written in the verse, cry, she will cry at night. So why did they remove this woman from her neighborhood? Because Rabban Gamliel's neighbors didn't hear him crying and didn't cry along with him for the neighbor who lost her child. And so that is why the students removed her from her room. The students took her so that she would stir about in the world, moving from one neighborhood to another, crying for her son, and her voice would be like a shofar that sounds from one end of the earth to the other, calling out, cry, you will cry in the night, for you are the community of Israel. And since she stirred about in their neighborhoods, the people cried along with her. And their tears, they cleansed their souls. And so her mind eased a little and she found some respite for her soul. She is brought from place to place in order to break hearts open. This is holy work, opening our hearts. This is Ezekiel's vision too. He says, I will give you a new heart and put a new spirit in you. I will take away your stony heart and give you a tender, responsive heart. The prophet insists that even after devastation, it is possible to feel again, to not live a life numb, to not be shielded, but to be alive. We can have compassionate hearts. We can hold our pain and still hear the cry of others. In fact, the sound of the shofar is intended to mimic the sound of crying. Maybe you've heard this before. But you know that this isn't just anybody's crying. It is a particular woman's cry that we mimic with the shofar blast. In the book of Judges, there's a story of the battle between Deborah and her general Barak against Sisera and the Canaanite army. The Israelites win the battle, the Canaanites run in fear, and Sisera is beheaded by the heroine Yael. The story is told twice in the book of Judges. In the second telling, the Shirat Devorah, the Song of Deborah, she offers us a glimpse into the experience of Sisera's mother on the day that her son dies. It says, "Through the window peered Sisera's mother. Behind the lattice she cried. All that day, we are told, Sisera's mother stood in the window of her home crying, watching and waiting for her son to return. Why is his chariot so long in coming?" she asks. "Why so late the clatter of his wheels?" The Talmud tells us that Sisera's mother let out 100 cries that day, corresponding to the 100 blasts in the shofar service. The rabbis wanted us to connect the shofar blast with the cries of the mother of our enemy. That is our alarm clock. That is what we stand and listen to. That is what we hear 100 times, attempting to crack open our hearts. The cries of the mother of our enemy. Only when we're able to hear one another's pain can we help to diminish it. Only when we cry together can we begin to heal. Only love can dispel hate. Only light can dispel darkness. I want to finish with a Hasidic story about a question in the Talmud. The Talmud says, "Until what time can you say the evening Shema?" It's till dawn. So when do we know it is dawn? When do we know that the night is over and the day has arrived? So in the Hasidic tale, there are students who are trying to answer this question for their rabbi. One says, "Rebbe, night is over and day has arrived when you can see a house in the distance and determine if it's your house or the house of your neighbor." Another student responds, "Night is over and day has arrived when you can see an animal in the field and determine whether it belongs to you or your neighbor." Yet another student offered, "Night is over and day has arrived when you can see a flower in the garden and distinguish its color." "No, no, no," replied the Rebbe. "Why must you see only in separations, only distinctions, only disjunctions? No, night is over and day has arrived when you look into the face of the person next to you and you see that he is your brother, that she is your sister, that you belong to each other, that you are one. Then, and only then, will you know that night has ended and day has arrived." In this year of 5786, let us cry together. Let's remove the barriers around our hearts, and let's bring about the dawn by seeing that we are brothers and sisters. Gamar Chatzima Tova. May you be sealed for blessing.